I found the official printed briefing from the Defence Department the other day.
Oh, yes.
And I read it. So talk to me about the word raid. The Defence Department in this incident, event,
Yes.
attack, battle, they refer to what their actions were was a raid.
Raid is sudden attack, predatory incursion in which surprise and rapidity. Sudden attack made by military party. The reason this book exists is that there were people inside the military who wanted the story to get out. I was approached by an unhappy man who said it had been eating away at him for years being involved in this operation which had killed and hurt civilians. And on our very first meeting he told me the name of the operation, Operation Burnham, and basically most of the story on my very first meeting, and then we met more people who told us more of the story. The book is based in the mountains of Afghanistan, where the New Zealand military had been based for several lucky years with no one being hurt, when suddenly the first New Zealander died in combat. The SAS made the same terrible mistake that so many other countries do in a war like that, which is that they get in the mood of revenge. They get in the mood of utu, as you might call it, and they go in there to sort out the baddies, and unfortunately in this case, the baddies were children and their parents. And that's why it was such a terrible catastrophe. So the first New Zealander died, attacked in a roadside bomb. There was a frantic search to find out the names of the fighters who'd done it, which they successfully did in a very short time. And then it was handed to the SAS, who were based in Kabul, in the capital city in Afghanistan, to plan a raid to try to kill or capture those people. They knew they were doing something really big, and so the SAS didn't want to take total responsibility for this. And first of all, they referred it to the Chief of Defence Force and then to the Minister of Defence. And both of those thought it should go higher still. And so on the day before the raid, a phone call was made from Kabul through to the Prime Minister, John Key, where he had explained to him what was planned and was he prepared to give the green light for this retaliation raid. And John Key did that. So he was the one who made the decision to go ahead. And so they headed off with American helicopter gunships and more New Zealand SAS than any other operation in Afghanistan, and drones and the whole kind of high-tech war machine heading down towards these two Afghan villages where they believed the people were who had done the attack which had ended up on the New Zealander being killed. And so they arrived in the village, and in their sort of wound-up minds, what they were seeing as insurgents running around were actually children running scared in the dark. It was people like the mother who ran out with a little child in her arms, who was instantly killed. And the mother was injured herself, who was traumatised by it, has never gone back to the village. There were other people scattering from their houses who got shot up by helicopters or by the SAS snipers. In fact, every single person who was killed and injured, it was 21 of them, was an innocent civilian, and none of the people they were looking for were there. And in the same mood of angry revenge, the SAS went around burning down and blowing up houses. While they soon were realised that they hadn't found who they were looking for, they gave no aid to the people who were lying bleeding and in some cases still dying around them. They just headed off out of the valley. Later they would do more things like that, where they attacked a village where they thought they would find the insurgents. But that wasn't the end of it. Even later there was more of this rage was seen when they captured one of the people who they had genuinely been looking for that night. And the SAS put him in the back of a vehicle and beat him up, and then gave him to the secret police where he was tortured. And then as their sort of final crime, they knew they'd done things wrong, and so they covered the whole thing up and hoped that no one would ever find out about it in New Zealand. John Stevenson and I pretty much knew that when we put this book out, they weren't going to own up on the spot. But the level of their denials have been quite astonishing. When the book first arrived out, they just said, there were no civilians killed, nothing went wrong, there was absolutely nothing, this is completely untrue. And then they carefully studied the book, and alas, they found a very minor mistake in it, which was that one of the illustrations in the book had the villages marked in a slightly wrong place. It was a few bends along this roadless river from where we'd been told. These things happen, it was a very minor mistake. But what the Defence Force did, which was really remarkable, is that they said, just a moment, this is a different attack. They're not talking about the Operation Burnham on the 22nd of August 2010 in this place. They're talking about a different Operation Burnham, which happened on the 22nd of August 2010 in a different place. Of course there weren't two raids with the same name in the same valley in the middle of the roadless mountains on the same night, but that's what they said. They tried to say, and hoped the public would believe them, that we'd got the entire book wrong, and so they hadn't done anything wrong. Bill English indeed said that he had been shown footage taken from helicopters which showed that they had only killed insurgents there. And there's two possibilities. The first possibility is that he was carefully misled, being shown a selective, short little bit of helicopter footage about a long and hours-long battle meant that he knew what went on. So he might have been misled, in which case he should have been more careful. The other possibility is that he was joining in the cover-up knowingly. And either way it's terrible because it's just not true. What the book is, quote by quote and fact by fact, it's laying out what those people inside the system, inside the SAS, inside the senior levels of the Defence Force feel about what happened. In other words, it's really their book. They're the ones who give it the credibility. The Defence Force still to this day insists that they killed 9 insurgents in that village when they'd got none of the people they were looking for, in fact. There actually is a difference between whether you shot a fighter or you shot a child, and only one of those is correct. I think that the reason why the whole thing was kept so secret and is still being covered up is that the military and the government know that New Zealanders care deeply about this. That we, as a country, see ourselves as different from the more violent and militaristic countries of the world. We see ourselves as playing an honourable role in the world. We see ourselves as a principled small nation, and that's what most people want their country to be. We should be giving compensation to the families that had to move away because they were too scared to live in their homes anymore and lost their land and their farming. We should be there making good for what we did. That's what New Zealanders would think we should do. But the other thing we should be doing is that we should be saying what we did wrong. Because when you say you've done something wrong, then actually you're trying to stop it happening again. Look, I sat there at my desk. I had the New Zealand Defence Force Code of Conduct beside me as I wrote. And step by step we were ticking off all the things that they promised to do in war that they didn't do on that occasion. And it's bigger than just their own code of conduct, because there are things like the Geneva Conventions. There are international war crimes laws and humanitarian and international laws. We've signed these commitments that we won't abuse prisoners or harm civilians or carelessly work in civilian areas or destroy property without good military purpose. So New Zealand wasn't just they weren't just acting badly in the field, they were breaking international law, it seems. And when it's something as serious as that, when it's actually in the realm of war crimes, they're dreaming if they think they can just close it down. Because war crimes don't go away. The most important thing when there has been an event like this is that it doesn't just get forgotten and disappear, because then nothing will be done. And so there's a whole series of things coming up over the next while which are going to make sure it stays in people's minds. For a start, we're being approached, John Stevenson and I are being approached by people in the military who aren't happy, who watched the cover-up, who knew it was lies, and who are giving us more information. And in fact, what we're finding out is that what went on in these events, what went on that horrible night in particular, isn't the worst of it, that there's more to come yet. There's a strong likelihood that there's court action coming on behalf of the villagers. There's already talk of action in the Committee Against Torture. There may be other overseas action. And the most important thing actually that someone can do is to read about it. Because anybody who reads the book from beginning to end, get it from the library, I don't want my $1.50 of royalties, but anyone who reads the book will come away utterly convinced that we're telling the truth. And so the more people who read it, the harder it is to keep the lid on it. And eventually you get change, and we'll get justice out of it.